I decided I had to become a high-value woman, so I broke up with my boyfriend because he didn't earn enough. Now that he's been promoted at his company and he deserves me, he doesn't want us to get back together. Why is he like this if I love him? You know, people always talk about true love as if it's this magical, free-flowing thing that doesn't require any maintenance or strategic oversight. For a long time, I believed that lie while I was with Ethan, thinking that good enough was actually enough for a woman of my potential. We had a routine that felt safe, sure, but safety is just another word for stagnation when you're destined for the stratosphere. Ethan was always there, supporting my little projects and making sure I felt comfortable, but comfort is the enemy of growth. I didn't realize I was essentially living in a low-frequency bubble until the universe finally decided to crack it open. Everything changed the moment I stumbled across a high-value lifestyle seminar on TikTok that felt like a direct download from the cosmos. It was like a veil was lifted from my eyes, and I suddenly saw my life through the lens of a professional auditor. I started looking at my relationship not as a romance, but as a portfolio that needed a serious review. I have this notebook where I track my personal ROI, my return on investment, and the numbers simply weren't adding up anymore. I was pouring all this premium, goddess-tier energy into a man who was essentially a stagnant asset. Ethan is a nice guy, I'll give him that, but a nice doesn't pay for the aesthetic maintenance a woman of my caliber requires. He was working this mid-level job, making a salary that barely covered our basic lifestyle, let alone the provider energy I knew I was meant to attract. In my notebook, I have clear KPIs for my partners, and Ethan was failing every single one of them. He hadn't scaled his income by even 20% this year, which is a massive red flag for anyone trying to manifest abundance. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the fact that we were no longer vibrationally aligned on a fundamental level. I spent a whole week meditating on this, realizing that by staying with him, I was actually blocking my own blessing. My TikTok gurus were very clear: you cannot ascend to your highest self if you are anchored to someone who is content with the plateau. I felt this heavy weight in my chest every time he came home and talked about his okay day at his okay job. I deserved a man who was a lion, a conqueror, someone whose bank account reflected the power of his spirit. It became painfully obvious that Ethan was just a placeholder, a training ground for the real king I was supposed to meet. The day I sat him down to break the news, I felt like a benevolent queen performing a necessary execution for the good of the realm. I explained it to him very logically, using the terms I'd learned from my mentors, telling him that our frequencies were just too discordant. I told him straight to his face that since he hadn't scaled his income, he was essentially holding me back from my divine right to luxury. It wasn't an insult, it was just a market correction that he needed to hear for his own growth. I could see he was confused, but that's typical of people who haven't done the inner work to understand high-value dynamics. I told him I was liberating him, so he could find someone who was more at his own tier, someone who didn't have such high vibrational demands. It was honestly the most selfless thing I've ever done, giving him back his freedom so he wouldn't feel the pressure of my inevitable ascent. I was doing him a favor by leaving before my success made him feel even more inferior than he already was. I explained that I was moving into a season of scarcity and mystery, which is the only way to truly attract an alpha provider. He just sat there, looking like I just told him the earth was flat, which only proved my point about our intellectual gap. To ensure the mystery was maintained, I blocked him on absolutely every platform before he could even try to argue or beg. My gurus say that access is a privilege, not a right, and Ethan had officially lost his subscription to the Gabriella experience. I deleted our photos, not because they weren't cute, but because they cluttered my digital garden with low-value memories. I felt so light, so empowered, as if I had finally trimmed the dead weight from my wings. I was ready to fly into the arms of a man who actually understood what it meant to invest in a premium partner. It's actually quite tragic how people misinterpret boundaries for cruelty, but that's just the cross I have to bear as a pioneer of self-worth. I knew Ethan would probably be sad for a bit, but he'd eventually realize that I'd given him the greatest gift of all, the truth. My path was upward, and his was, well, horizontal, and there's nothing wrong with that for people who like the ground. I spent that first night of the liberation doing a sage cleansing of my apartment to remove his lingering, stagnant energy. I was officially on the market, and I expected the universe to deliver a high-tier replacement almost immediately. The silence on my phone was just the universe's way of creating space for the big manifestation that was coming my way. I kept my notebook by my bed, ready to log the attributes of the next man who would undoubtedly be a CEO, or at least a high-level hedge fund manager. Ethan's reaction, or lack thereof, since he was blocked, was irrelevant to my new mission of total self-optimization. I was Gabriella, the goddess, and I had officially closed the chapter on a mediocre love to make room for a high-value empire. It's a shame he couldn't see the vision, but then again, that's why he's where he is and I'm where I am. He probably thinks I was being mean, but in reality, I was being the most honest person he's ever met in his life. You can't expect a Ferrari to be happy in a one-car garage with a leaky roof and a gravel driveway. I'm the Ferrari, and Ethan was the gravel driveway functional for a while, but eventually, you just want some smooth, expensive pavement. I'm sure he'll find a nice, low-maintenance girl who doesn't mind his lack of ambition or his flatlined income. As for me, I'm just waiting for the world to catch up to the frequency I'm currently broadcasting. Main story comments. Anonymous user 1 says, "This is literally the most delusional thing I've read all week. A relationship isn't a business merger where you check quarterly earnings to see if your partner is still vibrationally aligned. You dumped a guy who was kind and supportive because he didn't get a 20% raise? That's not being high value, that's just being a gold digger with a TikTok-induced personality disorder." OP's reply, "It's clear you have a low-frequency mindset and don't understand the concept of energetic exchange. Supporting me is the bare minimum, providing a lifestyle that matches my vibration is the requirement. If you're happy with stagnation, that's your journey, but some of us are actually trying to ascend." Anonymous user 2 says, "I can't even imagine being Ethan in this scenario. Imagine your girlfriend of years sitting you down and liberating you because a 30-second TikTok video told her your ROI was too low. The guy dodged a literal nuclear missile. I hope he's out there enjoying his stagnant life without a human calculator for a partner." OP's reply, "I wasn't being a calculator, I was being a gardener. I had to pull the weeds to let the flowers grow, and Ethan was definitely a weed in my high-value garden. I'm protecting my peace and my potential, which is something people with a small picture brains will never understand." Update 1. It's been 3 weeks since my last update, and honestly, the ascension process has been a bit more taxing than the TikTok seminars led me to believe. I've been putting myself out there, attending these exclusive Goddess Mastery mixers where the alpha men are supposedly lurking. But let me tell you, these men are absolutely exhausting and don't seem to understand the concept of unconditional provision. They keep asking me what I bring to the table, besides my energy and my presence, which is such a low vibrational question to ask a queen. It's like they're trying to treat a sacred union like a transaction, which is exactly what I was trying to escape with Ethan, ironically enough. My notebook is practically bleeding red ink because I've had to write down so many red flags from these guys. One guy, who claimed to be a venture capitalist, actually suggested we split the bill for a round of artisanal cocktails because he wanted to see if I was invested. I almost choked on my organic olive, as if my time isn't the most valuable investment he could ever hope for. They don't seem to realize that my aesthetic maintenance, the nails, the hair, the skin routine is a full-time job that benefits them by proxy. If I'm showing up looking like $1 million, the least they can do is cover the operating costs of the date without making a scene. The dating market is honestly a disaster zone of men who want a high-value woman but have a budget and mindset when it comes to the actual upkeep. I've spent more on Uber Blacks to these mixers than I've received in gifts or tributes, which is a total imbalance in my energetic ledger. I'm staying committed to the mystery and scarcity protocol, but it's hard to be mysterious when you're bored out of your mind by men talking about their startups. I keep waiting for the universe to send the one who just gets it, the one who sees me and immediately opens a line of credit. But so far, all I've found are guys who want a partner when I'm clearly looking for a patron of my goddesshood. In a moment of purely professional curiosity, I decided to check Ethan's LinkedIn from a burner account I created last week. I want to be very clear, this wasn't because I miss him or because I'm obsessed, like some low-value girl would be. It was a strategic audit of my past decisions, a way to verify that I'd made the right move by liberating him from my orbit. I needed to see if he was still wallowing in the mediocrity I'd left him in, or if my departure had finally jolted him into some kind of action. It's part of my level up process to review old assets and confirm they were indeed stagnant before moving on. When his profile popped up, I actually had to do a double take because he looked, well, different. He's updated his headshot, and he's wearing this incredibly sharp, tailored suit that I definitely don't remember him owning. He has this look in his eyes, a kind of confidence that I'm certain he's trying to manifest as a way to cope with losing me. It's a classic move, really trying to look successful on social media to prove you're doing fine when you're actually dying inside. He's probably just playing dress up for his coworkers, hoping that a better tie will fill the Gabriella-sized hole in his soul. I couldn't help but smirk a little at the thought of him trying so hard to level up now that I'm gone. It's cute, in a tragic way, that he thinks a new suit and a professional photo can replace the high vibrational energy I brought to his life. He's clearly trying to signal to the world and to me, indirectly, that he's capable of more, but we all know it's just a performance. You can't just buy a provider energy at a department store, it has to be a part of your fundamental frequency. He's probably just miserable, trying to distract himself from the fact that he failed to meet my KPIs when it actually mattered. It's actually quite validating to see him putting in this much effort to change his image, even if it is a bit late for our partnership. It proves that I was right all along. He was capable of more, he was just being lazy and stagnant, because I was making things too easy for him. My leaving was clearly the catalyst he needed to finally buy a decent suit and take a professional photo. I feel like a proud mentor watching a former student try to pass the test I already failed him on. He's basically performing for me from across the digital void, hoping I'll notice his growth. I've decided to keep an eye on his progress through the burner account, just to see how far this little performance goes. It's like a social experiment. Can a low-value asset actually transform itself after being discarded by a high-value goddess? I highly doubt it, but it's entertaining to watch him try to manifest a new life without the woman who literally gave him the blueprint. He's probably spending his weekends at the gym or reading success books, all while crying into his pillow because I'm no longer there to vibrate with him. Poor thing, he really doesn't understand that once you're blocked, you're essentially dead to the higher realms. I'm still focusing on my own goddess mastery, even if the current crop of men is a bit disappointing. I know that the right alpha will see my value and won't hesitate to invest in the Gabriella brand without asking annoying questions. I've started a new manifestation journal where I write down the exact dollar amount my next partner should be making annually. It's all about precision and holding the vision, even when the LinkedIn audits are more interesting than the actual dates I'm going on. I am the prize, and if Ethan wants to try and look like a prize too, well, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. I just wish these alpha guys at the mixers would stop talking about their goals and start talking about their offerings. A real high-value man doesn't need to explain his vision, he shows it through his bank statements and his willingness to pamper his queen. I'm staying strong, keeping my mystery intact, and refusing to settle for anything less than a total provider. Ethan's little suit is a nice touch, but it's going to take a lot more than a piece of fabric to get back on my level. I'm moving toward the sun, and I don't have time to look back at the shadows, even if the shadows are suddenly better dressed. Update 1 comments. Anonymous user 1 says, market research? You're literally stalking your ex through a burner account while complaining that other men won't pay for your aesthetic maintenance. That's not being a goddess, that's being a bored, unemployed woman with a LinkedIn obsession. If you're so high value, why are you spending your time auditing a stagnant asset, instead of living your ascended life? OP's reply, it's called market research and strategic auditing. To move forward, you have to confirm that your past exits were justified. Monitoring the competition even if they're former partners is a standard business practice for anyone at the top of their game. You wouldn't understand due diligence. Anonymous user 2 says, the way you've convinced yourself he's wearing a suit for you is actually terrifying. The guy probably just got a new job or finally felt like dressing better now that he doesn't have someone breathing down his neck about vibrational alignment. He's moving on, and you're stuck in a notebook trying to calculate why no one will buy you a drink. OP's reply, he is absolutely performing for me. Energy doesn't just disappear because of a block. He knows I'm watching, energetically if not literally, and he's trying to prove he's enough. It's a transparent attempt to manifest my return, but a suit doesn't change a low-frequency heart. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and the market has undergone a massive, unexpected shift that has completely validated my intuition. I was right to keep an eye on Ethan's trajectory, because he has officially achieved what I always knew he was capable of if only he had the right motivation. Ethan was just promoted to Senior Vice President of Operations at his company, a move that has effectively tripled his market value overnight. According to my Level Up guide and my carefully maintained notebook, he has finally met the minimum entry requirements to be my partner. It's like the universe finally heard my demands and forced him to step up so he could deserve the goddess he lost. I'm not even surprised, I'm just satisfied that my mentorship through absence actually worked on his stagnant soul. Now that he's reached the correct financial tier, he finally has the provider energy that is necessary for a woman of my frequency to engage with him. He's no longer a stagnant asset, he's a growth stock that has finally matured into something I can actually work with. It was my departure that lit the fire under his feet, and now it's only fair that I'm the one to enjoy the warmth of the success I essentially manifested for him. I decided it was time to be gracious and allow him the opportunity to win me back now that he's finally qualified. I didn't just unblock him and send a hey, like some low vibrational girl who doesn't know her worth. No, I drafted a comprehensive, 5-page PDF that clearly outlined the renegotiation terms for our potential future partnership. In the document, I explained exactly how his recent professional growth has finally aligned with my personal standards and that I am now open to resuming our connection. I detailed the ways in which his new salary could be utilized to support my aesthetic maintenance and the lifestyle upgrades I've been manifesting. Clarity is the ultimate feminine power, and I wanted to make sure there was no confusion about the expectations of this new era. I even went as far as to include a curated list of high-tier, 5-star restaurants where we could hold our official renegotiation dinner. I'm talking about places where they don't even put prices on the menus for the ladies, because that's the kind of environment a senior VP should be taking a woman like me. I sent the PDF to his work email since I wanted to ensure it was handled with the professional gravity it deserves and waited for the inevitable thank you message. I was practically doing him a favor by giving him a roadmap on how to properly court a high-value woman now that he actually has the means. It's an act of pure charity to offer him a second chance after he failed so miserably the first time around. I can just imagine him sitting in his new, spacious office, reading my PDF and realizing how lucky he is that I'm even considering him again. He probably felt so small and unworthy when I left, but now he has the chance to prove that he's actually manifested the man I told him to be. My gurus always say that a woman's absence is the greatest tool for a man's ascension, and Ethan is living proof of that divine law. He literally owes this promotion to me. If I hadn't liberated him, he'd still be in that mid-level cubicle, satisfied with mediocrity. I'm basically the silent CEO of his success, and it's time I started collecting my dividends. The men at the iGoddess Mastery mixers were such a disappointment compared to the new, SVP version of Ethan I've created. They all had the money but none of the history or the malleability that Ethan has after being under my influence for so long. Ethan already knows my preferences, my vibrations, and my ROI requirements. All he was missing was the bank account to match. Now that the financial piece is in place, he's essentially the perfect, custom-built partner that I've spent 2 years refining. It's like I sent a product back to the factory for a major upgrade, and it's finally ready for delivery. I've been spending my time planning our comeback debut on social media, thinking about the captions that will explain our hiatus as a period of independent growth. I'll make it look so sophisticated, like we were two powerful entities who had to part ways to reach our full potential before reuniting. Everyone will be so jealous of our high-value reunion, and I'll be there to guide him through the process of being a trophy provider. He should be honored that I'm willing to overlook his past stagnation and focus on the senior VP he has become. It's a very big picture move on my part, showing that I'm capable of forgiveness when the numbers are right. I'm sure he's been dreaming about this moment, wondering if I'd ever give him another look once he made something of himself. He's probably been checking his phone every 5 minutes, hoping for a sign that I've noticed his new title. Well, the 5-page PDF is more than just a sign, it's a golden ticket back into my divine presence. I've even started looking at new apartments in the more exclusive parts of the city, assuming we'll be moving in together once the renegotiation is finalized. It's only logical that an SVP and a high-value goddess would share a space that reflects their combined market value. The PDF also included a section on backdated maintenance, explaining how he can make up for the 2 months of missed investment while we were apart. I think a nice designer bag or a weekend at a luxury spa would be a perfect signing bonus for our new contract. It's important to set the tone early so he doesn't think his new status means he can slack off on his duties to me. He needs to understand that being with a woman like me is a premium subscription that requires regular, high-tier updates. I'm actually quite excited to see how he handles the new Gabriella, the one who knows her worth down to the cent. I'm just waiting for the calendar invite for our dinner now, which I'm sure is coming any second. He's probably just clearing his busy VP schedule to make sure he has the entire night to focus on me and my requirements. It's such a beautiful example of how the iGoddess lifestyle works when you trust the process and hold your standards. I broke him down so I could build him up, and now I'm ready to reap the rewards of my labor. Ethan, darling, your queen is ready to receive her tribute now. Don't keep me waiting too long in this scarcity phase. Update 2 comments. Anonymous user 1 says, a 5-page PDF? Are you kidding me right now? You sent your ex-boyfriend a contract for a relationship because he got a promotion? That is the most unromantic, clinical, and frankly, sociopathic thing I've ever heard of. The man finally gets a win in his career, and you swoop in like a vulture with a renegotiation plan. OP's reply, clarity is the ultimate feminine power, and a romance is just a low vibrational word for lack of boundaries. I'm being a professional about my life and my heart, ensuring that both parties are vibrationally aligned with the new financial reality. If you think clarity is sociopathic, you're clearly used to messy love. Anonymous user 2 says, I really hope Ethan has a good lawyer or at least a very strong delete button on his email. Imagine working your tail off to get a senior VP position, only to have your toxic ex send you a list of restaurants where you can apply to be her boyfriend again. I hope he runs so far away that he ends up in a different time zone. OP's reply, he doesn't need to run, he needs to arise to the occasion I've provided for him. He owes his success to the motivation of me leaving, and deep down, he knows he'd still be a mid-level nobody without my influence. He's lucky I'm giving him a renegotiation, instead of just moving on to a native alpha. Update 3. It's been 5 days since my last update, and I am literally shaking with the sheer audacity and ungratefulness of the response I just received. Ethan finally replied to my email, but he didn't even have the decency to read the PDF that I spent hours meticulously crafting for our future. He sent a one-sentence text yes, a text, after I sent a professional document that said, I've realized my value is too high to be someone's investment property again. I am absolutely floored by the arrogance of this man, who is clearly using the scarcity mindset I literally taught him against me. How can he be so blind to the fact that I am the one who mentored his potential and turned him into the SVP he is today? I spent 2 years of my life vibrating for this man, holding the vision of his success when he was too stagnant to see it for himself. For him to turn around and act like his value is something he created independently is the ultimate act of energetic theft. I am the one who told him to dream big, the one who liberated him so he could reach this tier, and now he's treating me like a bad investment? It's beyond insulting. It's a total distortion of reality that only a man with a fragile ego could conjure up. He thinks he's too high value for the woman who literally defined the term for him in the first place. I couldn't just let this disrespect stand, so I decided to take matters into my own hands and provide my presence at his office today. I figured that once he saw me in person looking absolutely a goddess tier in my new manifestation outfit, his ego would melt and he'd remember his place. I went to the corporate headquarters, ready to walk into his new VP office and have a real, face-to-face renegotiation. I didn't even make an appointment because, as his primary energetic partner, I shouldn't need a slot on his calendar. But when I got to the lobby, I was met with the most low-vibrational obstacle I've ever encountered in my entire life. The security guard, this man who clearly has zero vision, told me I wasn't on the approved list and couldn't go up to the executive floor. I explained to him, very calmly and with high-frequency authority, that I was Ethan's partner and that I was there to oversee his ascension. The guard just looked at me with this blank expression, as if I were speaking a foreign language instead of the language of a manifestation. He actually had the nerve to tell me that Mr. Senior VP had specifically requested that only pre-vetted visitors be allowed up. It's like Ethan has built a fortress of scarcity to keep out the very woman who gave him the bricks to build it. I stood there for 20 minutes, trying to manifest a way past this hired obstacle, but the guard wouldn't budge an inch. It's absolutely pathetic that Ethan is hiding behind a security desk because he's too afraid to face the truth of our connection. He's literally using the gatekeeping tactics I explained in my Goddess seminars to block the source of his own abundance. I am the CEO of this relationship, and for him to deny me access to his workspace is a total violation of our vibrational contract. I eventually had to leave because the energy in the lobby was becoming far too toxic for my brand. How can he be so short-sighted as to think he can sustain this high-value status without my ongoing energetic support? He's like a phone that's been unplugged from the charger and thinks it's going to stay at 100% forever. I was his power source, his inspiration, and the blueprint for every single VP move he's made in the last 2 months. To call himself too high value, for me is like a startup telling its lead investor that they're no longer needed after the first seed round. He wouldn't even know what a senior VP was if I hadn't pointed him in the right direction. I'm back at my apartment now, and I'm cleansing my space again because I can still feel the vibration of his rejection. It's not that I'm hurt, I'm far too ascended, for that it's just that I'm offended by the sheer lack of gratitude in his soul. He's acting like a victim of my investment, when in reality, he's the beneficiary of my entire goddess era. He's trying to rebrand himself as this independent, self-made man, but we all know that the Gabriella stamp is all over his new suit. He's just a hollow asset, without my divine spark to keep him relevant. I'm starting to think that maybe he's self-sabotaging, because he knows he can't actually maintain this level without me. He's scared of the irresponsibility of being with a woman who demands constant ROI and aesthetic maintenance. So instead of rising to the challenge, he's choosing to shrink back into his scarcity mindset and call it high value. It's a classic coping mechanism for men who aren't ready for the intensity of a true queen. He'd rather be safe and alone than challenged and victorious with a partner like me by his side. It's honestly tragic to see someone throw away a premium connection just to satisfy a temporary ego trip. He'll realize his mistake soon enough, probably when his vibration starts to drop and his VP of performance begins to stagnate again. You can't keep manifesting success if you've severed the tie to your primary manifester. I'm just going to sit here and wait for the inevitable collapse of his independent brand. He'll be begging for a renegotiation once he realizes that security guards can't charge his energetic battery. I've decided to increase my own scarcity even further by not even replying to his low vibrational text message. Silence is the ultimate power move, and I want him to feel the void of my absence in every VP meeting he attends. He thinks he's too high value for me? Fine, let's see how valuable he feels when he's vibrating in a vacuum of his own making. I am the prize, and I don't chase stagnant assets, I replace them with a higher tier manifestations. He can keep his one-sentence text, I'm keeping my goddess a crown. Update 3 comments. Anonymous user 1 says, the irony is absolutely delicious. You spent years telling this guy he was a stagnant asset, and that he needed to level up his value, or lose you. Now that he finally has, he's applied your own logic. Why would he keep an investment in you that provides zero ROI and only demands upkeep? The boomerang hit you so hard it's hilarious. OP's reply, I am not an investment that can be discarded. I am the CEO of the entire relationship enterprise. He didn't apply my logic, he has stole my IP and is now trying to run the company without the founder. It's hysterical that you think an asset can just fire its creator. Anonymous user 2 says, that security guard deserves a massive raise for keeping manifestation out of the executive suite. Providing your presence at his workplace after he told you no is just a high-value way of saying harassment. Ethan didn't fortress himself against abundance, he fortressed himself against a massive headache in a goddess-tier outfit. OP's reply, the guard was nothing more than a hired obstacle to my manifestation, a low-frequency pawn in Ethan's ego game. I wasn't harassing anyone, I was auditing the physical space of my partnership. If you can't handle the intensity, stay out of the executive lobby. Update 4. It's been 2 weeks since my last update, and the universe has just delivered a clarity check that I wasn't exactly expecting. I happened to see a post on a mutual friend's story last night, someone I haven't purged it from my feed yet, and it was like a glitch in the matrix. There was Ethan, a senior VP I essentially created, sitting at a casual, low-vibrational taco truck on the side of the road. He wasn't at a 5-star restaurant, he wasn't renegotiating anything, and he certainly wasn't manifesting luxury. He was with a girl who wears absolutely no makeup, has zero aesthetic maintenance, and works as a teacher. A literal, low-value teacher with a fixed income and zero provider energy of her own. I'm sitting here in my apartment, looking at my high-value notebook and my list of e-goddess requirements, and I feel like I'm looking at a dead language. I have every KPI written down, every standard meticulously logged, and every manifestation target clearly identified. I have the blueprint for a $1 million lifestyle, but I'm realizing that I have absolutely no one to give it to. I tried to manifest a text from Ethan all night, doing my scripts and burning my candles, but the only notification I got was a ping from my bank. My Goddess Mastery subscription was just automatically renewed for another $99, and for the first time, it felt like a fee instead of an investment. My portfolio is officially at a 0, and all the vibrational alignment in the world can't hide the fact that I'm alone in an empty apartment. I've spent so much time auditing Ethan's value that I forgot to check if I was actually liquid in the happiness department. I look at my aesthetic maintenance in the mirror, and I just see a high-maintenance woman who has optimized herself into a vacuum. Ethan looked happier eating a $3 taco with a low-value girl than he ever did sitting through one of my vibrational lectures. It's a bitter realization that his market value didn't need my PDF to find a fulfillment. I'm sitting here with my premium energy and my manifestation journals, and I'm the only one crying into a silk pillowcase. Why am I the one suffering if I'm the high-value one in this equation? I have the suit, I have the title, and I have the notebook, but I don't have the partner to renegotiate with. I've liberated myself into a prison of my own standards, and the ROI on my solitude is looking abysmal. I'm high value, I'm a goddess, and I'm ascended, but for some reason, the taco truck girl is the one with the senior VP on her arm. My investment is bankrupt, and I'm just left with the ability for a lifestyle that has zero human connection.